Hello, and welcome to the Nothing to See Here podcast, where we get honest about being human. My name is Kimberly Wright, and I am your host, and today we will be talking about perfectionism, a topic that is, unfortunately, very near and dear to my heart. I'm sure I'll mess up today. I actually tried to record this yesterday and restarted about 15 times, and so I decided to wait until today. We're going to start fresh, and I'm not going to redo this 15 times. I'm not perfect, and this podcast is going to show that. It's just going to show me flaws and all, and that's okay. I did write down some notes, different things that I definitely want to touch on today, but we'll also just kind of wing it as well. So I apologize if I get off on a tangent a little bit. I really don't want to talk at you. I don't really feel like that's super helpful, but in this moment where it's just me behind this microphone, it may feel like that at times, and if so, I apologize. I want you to see yourself in the things that I'm saying, because this is my real life. This is who I am. I'm showing up uniquely me, and I'm going to be honest and authentic about the things that I experience on a daily basis, the things that I'm working through to try to become a more confident me. And perfectionism, as I said in my first podcast, is truly one of the biggest barriers in my life, and that stems from fear. Your perfectionism may have come from a different journey than mine, but ultimately, anybody that experiences perfectionism, I'm sure, can see themselves in the experiences of others talking about the topic. So hopefully this helps you feel seen in some way. And I would love for you to share with me your experiences as well. So feel free to leave a comment. You can always email me at nothingtoseeherepodcast@gmail.com. And let's get into it. Perfectionism. At what point do we realize we're enough? That's a hard question, right? I've been working on trying to feel enough for quite some time. I would say a good 5 years. And somehow I always find a way to be mean to myself, to say mean things. I mean, that's not funny, but it's the reality. My self-talk can definitely be negative. And that's something that I'm seriously working on at this point in my life. I think it's important. I definitely feel like I am consistently auditioning in my life to prove that I'm deserving, whether that be of love, empathy, kindness, validation. I mean, the list could literally go on and on. And why do I do that to myself? I think to avoid feeling like a disappointment. Ultimately, I was trying to sit yesterday and kind of think, like, what does this boil down to? What is it that I'm so deeply afraid of? And it's definitely being a disappointment, a burden. I don't want the people that I love to be embarrassed to say that I am part of their life. And obviously there's deeper meaning there of where that comes from ultimately, but that's definitely what mine boils down to. And when I think about how I react when somebody that I, and not even necessarily love, just an acquaintance in my life, does something imperfect, I am the most forgiving. I give so much grace. I jump in to try to help to correct whatever happened. And I don't understand why I can't do that same thing for myself. Right? I will give grace and love all day to somebody else who has messed up. I'll go out of my way to say, this isn't a big deal. Everything's okay. Don't worry about it. But if it's me, I'm going to be ruminating about that in my head all day long and saying not nice things to myself. For me, for my perfectionism, I think it's the need to be objectively the best. I mean, that seems silly, but that idea has overconsumed my life for decades. Not because I want to be better than other people. Let me be clear about that. It's not like I'm looking at things from a hierarchy system where I need to be the top of the top. It's more, I want to appear knowledgeable and worthy. Worthy is probably the better word. And a lot of people will say to me, but Kimberly, you're so confident. You always seem so confident. And I say to that, yeah, on the outside. On the outside, I seem very confident. But that's a front. On the inside, my brain is going 50 different ways all the time. Whether it's trying to predict what the outcome could potentially be so that I can circumvent that from happening. So like thinking worst case scenario and how I can work towards making that not happen. Or whether it's just saying mean things to myself. There's a lot happening in this brain of mine. And so, that's something that I'm working on too. I'm great at seeming like I have it all together. And I do. Here's the realistic thing. I am knowledgeable. I have worked hard for the things that I have. I am all of those things, yet for some reason I still doubt myself. And that's where the problem comes into play, right? I've put in the work. I am enough. I know enough. I've done enough. But in my brain, it's still not enough. So what I'm working on is the idea that I'm good enough and I'm still growing. Meaning I still have a lot to learn in this life. I turned 40 this month. My husband really wanted to tell me that today. Kimberly, it's your birthday month. Great. Appreciate that. But I still have room to learn and grow and obviously work towards less perfectionism, less negative self-talk, more self-worth. Those are all things I'm working on. And I can tell you that I'm heads and tails above what I was 5 years ago. But, and that's a true statement. I really, truly am. I feel more myself than I've ever felt in my life. But I still have a lot to work on. So what I thought would be fun, I don't know if it'll be fun for me, but I tried to think about some things I did this last week that were imperfect. And these are inconsequential things. They don't really matter. They're just small things that I did that were fails, epic fails. So maybe you can think about some things that you did this week too. But I'm going to share a few with you. So as you all know, this last week was Thanksgiving. And we did cook and have family over to our house. I made some homemade gravy. And I oversalted the crap out of that sucker. And once you put the salt in, it's there. So, you just have to, it was still good, but it was very salty. And that was a big fail. And I also forgot to cook a whole dish that I had planned for Thanksgiving. And And sorry, that's my dogs in the background, and we're imperfect here, so you get to hear that too. So I was going to make some like noodles. My grandma used to make noodles and chicken, and it was kind of in a broth type thing, and we would use that to put over our mashed potatoes. I think she specifically made it for me because I asked for it every year. I mean, it's not really a traditional Thanksgiving thing, but I was going to make that this year just kind of in honor of her, and because it's one of my favorite things. And I totally forgot. I got all the stuff for it, but it's still sitting in my refrigerator. So let's see. I forgot to take my thyroid medication for the 5,000th time. That's kind of a self-sabotage thing that I'm also working on, but definitely imperfect. I made an appointment with the wrong doctor. How did you do that, Kimberly? Well, that's a great question. I got on my portal to try to schedule an appointment, and I had seen a doctor in the same like medical group but different location for like a second opinion on something at one point, and I accidentally scheduled an appointment with his PA because it showed up on my list rather than my regular doctor. So I took a 2.5 hour nap when I was just trying to take like a 30-minute, 1 hour nap. If you know me, you know that I love a midday nap. It's fantastic. I love it. And usually it's usually like a two hour. I only get to do these things on the weekend, but I like a good 2 hour nap. I guess that's really more like a sleep. And we had some things we had to kind of get around and get ready for Thanksgiving. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to shut my eyes for like an hour. And 2.5 hours later, I came groggily walking out of the bedroom. So another mistake. It's fine. Guess what? Thanksgiving dinner was still made. Everybody still ate. So it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. But it's something that I probably previously would have thought about. And I actually didn't this time. I was just like, meh, it is what it is. But I've spent most of my life chasing invisible standards. These towers of expectations that surround me on a daily basis. But they've all been imposed by me. Nobody else in my adult life has said, Kimberly, you have to be perfect 100% of the time. Nobody ever. But I feel like that's the case for me. And if I make a mistake, guess what? The people in my life do to me like I do for other people and try to help me out and give me grace. But I don't do that for myself. I'm bound to fail again and again based on the unattainable expectations that I've set for myself. And what's worse is I wouldn't have those same expectations for anybody else. Not even my worst enemy. They are unreachable and they're cruel. I mean, just think about that for a second. If you are a perfectionist, I'm also a people pleaser. So those kind of, for me, those two things go hand in hand. I tend to take on too much in order to help out other people whenever I'm already drowning myself. And so that's led me to have burnout on multiple occasions. It's led to mental health issues because you end up feeling resentment for people when in reality you have not given them a realistic view of where you're at. Because again, like I said, on the outside, I'm always cool, calm, and collected. So how can somebody know that I'm drowning if they think I'm just, standing on the beach having a good time? I always think about it like I could be like in the ocean, have 10-pound weights on my hands and feet, just trying to tread water. And somebody be like, can you take, 10 more pounds? And be like, yeah, throw it at me. I'm a glutton for punishment. And so I think the people-pleasing piece has definitely amplified the perfectionism because I want everything to be done correctly, but I take on too much work, which then makes it difficult to do everything correctly because, overworked. And then you just kind of work yourself to death. And there's been times in my life where I've been so physically sick with autoimmune issues, mental health issues, eating bad, sitting for 12, 13 hours a day because my people pleasing and my perfectionism are kind of at odds. So one of the things I wrote down here is that it's goals are great, right? I don't want to make it sound like you can't have goals and expectations for yourself, but they have to be realistic. They have to be attainable and they have to be measurable, right? How are you ever going to know if you've met a goal you set for yourself if your goal is just to be the best at everything all the time for the rest of your life? Never make a mistake. You never feel any sort of success with that. Never, because you're always trying to work towards this goal because there's never a finish line. I think I said this maybe at the beginning, but my perfectionism, and likely yours too, is driven by fear. For me, it's the fear of failure, the fear of disappointing those that I love, and the fear of the consequences of being human. Being human is literally being imperfect. That's the point. That's part of the point of why we're doing this thing called life, is to learn and grow. And you can't learn lessons and you can't grow if you do everything right all the time. The instances that I have learned the most and grown the most are those instances where I've been imperfect. So you've got to give yourself space to make mistakes. And part of that can be your environment too. You've got to be in an environment where making mistakes and trying, but if you fail, that's okay anyway. You got to be in that type of environment as well. Because if you're in a very rigid environment where you can't make mistakes, and you're a perfectionist on top of that, it's truly the most toxic mixture. I, for sure, even though I'm a perfectionist, I've failed in a variety of ways. And at the end of the day, the world did not end. I have not been perfect my whole life. I've done things that I'm not proud of. I've not been my best self all the time. And the world's still spinning. Right? Everybody's still moving along with their day. I think I've spent my life trying to predict and prevent negative experiences. If I was just good enough, life would be calm and balanced. But as I said earlier, I've worked myself to burnout on multiple occasions. I've pushed my mental and physical health to the brink. And at the end of the day, aren't those consequences? Aren't those negative experiences? Aren't those imbalanced? So I'm doing things in the fear of having an imbalanced, chaotic life, and in turn causing an imbalanced, chaotic life on the opposite end of the spectrum. And in order to not let other people down, I've let myself down again and again. So I think that that's the point of this. All right. The point of this podcast for me is just to say, this is what I've been through. This is the tendencies of my personality. And hopefully maybe you can see yourself. Well, hopefully you can't see yourself in this. Hopefully you're not a perfectionist. But if you are, it's really just to say you're not alone. There's lots of us that go through this for a multitude of reasons. And what we have to begin to do is to choose ourselves. I still don't want to make a mistake. I'll never want to make a mistake. But that's an impossible goal. It's an impossible goal to never make a mistake. And for me, ultimately, what I've decided is that I'm not going to bring detriment to myself by overworking and overdoing it in order to be perfect. You got to have boundaries, and I'm not going to take on more than I can possibly handle, whether it's personal life, whether it's work life, no matter what it is. What I'm learning to do is be vocal about where I'm at in the moment, be authentic about that, and set the right expectations of what people should expect from me in that moment. And giving a voice to all that chaos that I have going on inside my head at all times, bringing that outward. Because right now, like I said, well, not right now, because I've been working on this for some time, but in the past, that was all internal and nobody saw it. And so if I give a voice to it, then the people on the outside of my life can truly see where I'm at. And guess what? They're going to give me grace, and they're going to give me kindness, and they're going to give me love, and they're going to pull back their requests of things for me to do, and they're going to jump in and help out if I have extra things that I can't handle, and they're going to be a listening ear and a guiding light because I was honest about where I am. I think that's what it boils down to for me, is that I have to be honest with the people in my life about where I'm at. And that's not going to fix the perfectionism, but it's sure as hell going to help. Because I'm not going to take on the people-pleasing things. I'm not going to overdo it. And so I can continue to try to be my best self at everything that I do, but I'm only going to have a load of things to do that are the right amount for where I'm at. So I think that's how I move forward and heal. And I don't know if that's helpful for you, but hopefully it is. I'm not an expert in clinical healing by any means, but I'm an expert in somebody who's has lived experience in perfectionism. And I know that ultimately it's hard to maintain. And so this is, I think how I begin to maintain that is building community, having others in my life that also experience this and really just discussing it and allowing each other to be seen while also being honest about where I'm at. Because there's no need for me to be embarrassed. And I think that's played into it for a long time. Embarrassment, probably the fear of being seen as not strong. I like to be considered a strong individual. And I am, by the way, but everybody has their limit. So that's where I am at. Another thing that I've done recently is just stepped into this podcast. This is for sure outside of my comfort zone. I'm a pretty private person, even though, I say that, I am very open about my mental health and the things I've gone through for the most part with people that I trust. But this is a new, very public way to speak about these things. And it can be scary, but in my heart, I know it's important. It's important for me as I continue on this healing path. And I feel like it's important for other people too. And I don't believe that I would have been drawn to do this if I wasn't meant to do this. I am listening to a few audiobooks right now, so I can definitely provide the ones that I've listened to so far that I feel like are helpful for me. I think I've said this before, probably not here on the podcast. I said I don't read. It's not that I don't read. I don't read for fun, I guess, is really what it boils down to. Like I'm a great reader, okay? Not that there's anything wrong if you're not. But it is not my tendency to sit down with a big old book and just sit and read for hours. I have a very hyperactive brain. It goes 50 different ways, and so I just can't focus long enough to read something. I'm one of those people, if I read a paragraph, I could go, I have no idea what I just read. Because even though I was going through the words, my brain was somewhere else. So I found that audiobooks are helpful for me, and maybe they could be helpful for you too. I've heard about audiobooks for years, but I just recently started listening to them. And I've listened to 3 books so far, and it's been very helpful. So maybe just something to look into. There's so many self-help books out there. You kind of just have to take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't when you listen to those sorts of things. But they can definitely give you little gems that will help you on your path. I'm embracing who I am. And this is part of that too. Quirks and all. I'm messy. I'm a little chaotic. Not like emotionally, just, I think I've alluded to the fact I'm not diagnosed ADHD, but I feel like there's a lot going on in this brain all the time. And which is kind of funny because people always tell me I'm a very calm presence. But I'm being open and honest about who I am as a person. So if you stick around and you keep listening, you'll see more and more of my personality and the things that have built who I am. All right. Well, that was a lot. I appreciate that you stuck around and listened. I will always have a drive to be a high achiever, and that's not going to change. And if you're a perfectionist, that may not change for you either. But like I said, there's ways that we can help protect ourselves, our mental health, our physical health as we move forward in life. I think I have to speak up for myself with unrealistic expectations from other humans and advocate for myself and forgive myself for imperfections. And ultimately, remember that I am good enough. I'll say that again. I am good enough. And you are too. And I'm working every day to stop letting fear be the motivator for my life. And if that's the journey you want to take too, then hopefully this has been helpful in some way. All right. I think we're at the end here. Thank you so much for sticking around. And I know we will talk again very soon. I appreciate you and have a great day. Bye.